Well, those were some amazing graphics. Hello, it's Bill and Wendy with Carolina Capital Management. This is the Passive Income Active Wealth Show.
Yep.
Thank you for being a part of it. We are lenders in the Carolinas. If you're interested in borrowing money, then go to carolinahardmoney.com. Click on the borrower tab. If you're interested in passive returns, click on the investor tab. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and like. We also have a chat section. Depends on what platform you're watching us from. On ours, it's to the right. Yours might be underneath. But you're able to ask questions in live time. So that'd be awesome. We have great guests.
And we don't just lend in the Carolinas.
No, we lend in about a five state area.
So we don't want to limit.
We're just kind of focused in the Carolinas because we're prejudiced.
Yeah, we like
living here a long time.
That's
and we
right.
like it.
We're Southerns.
So we have a great guest.
Yes,
don't we?
We do. Yes, we do.
So we have Ashley Molson, founder and principal attorney of Molson Law Firm. And she is out of Hoboken, New Jersey.
So not Canadian with the Molson beer that we were talking about a little bit earlier, right?
That's right. So Ashley, thank you so much for joining us today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
So we kind of confused her because she's never heard of us, even though we have tens of fans that follow us. She
stalk us.
She had no idea who this invitation came from. I actually saw her with another podcast from a hard money lender in the Philadelphia area.
Yeah.
And her technology, what she's doing, her interest in investors just sparked my interest, and I thought she'd just be a great guest for our listeners. So, okay, Ashley, how'd you get started in this?
Well, wait a minute. I want to ask her, you're not related to the Canadian Molsons, right?
No.
Oh. You'd be really rich if you were.
I'm not. Yeah.
I get it.
I get it. A different backdrop if that was the case.
Which is a nice backdrop you have now. Where are you?
I'm in Long Beach Island, New Jersey right now.
Nice.
Yes. Nice. Getting in some beach days.
Yeah, if you have to be somewhere, might as well be at the beach, right?
Yes, exactly. At all times.
So we were very fortunate. Last week, we were at a mastermind event for real estate investors in Clearwater Beach, Florida. So awesome. we did our broadcast from the balcony overlooking the pool in the Gulf of Mexico with all the palm trees swinging back and forth. So
that was nice.
That
Seems
was
like it was years ago.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, especially in the real estate world. A week ago is definitely a year.
So, give me your background on how you decided that you wanted to be an attorney in the first place.
Yeah, what were you thinking?
Well, I went to my undergrad in New York City. I was at Pace University, and I was in the business program there. And when I was graduating, the market was crashing, had crashed. Wow. And I was working in the financial sector at the time, and I kind of saw what was happening to my superiors when I was working in the industry. And I knew that I didn't want to jump right into the financial sector. That was number one. And number two, I wanted to have an opportunity through going to grad school to actually create a job for myself. And I figured the best way to do that would be to become a lawyer and start my own law practice. So I somehow or another got that idea in my head and went for it. And so I went into law school with the idea of starting my own law practice from the beginning. And of course, while I was in law school, I definitely teetered from, oh my gosh, is this going to be crazy, or should I just continue doing it? And I guess long story short, here I am. I did it. And it's turned out to be a really, really amazing journey personally, and then also just watching what my firm has grown to and the impact we've made on clients. It's been also a great thing, I think, just to kind of have injected myself into the legal community.
Awesome.
And real estate specifically.
Well, there was definitely a benefit to being on the business side first. because
Mhm.
unfortunately, with most private practice professionals, school teaches you how to be a great clinician. We do a lot of business with dentists and orthodontists and chiropractors and veterinarians. And again, school teaches you how to be great clinicians at that particular.
Highly paid professionals.
Yeah.
Yes.
But they devote very little time to the business side of it. And
Yeah.
most of those folks are all entrepreneurs. They have to be. They have to open up their own practices. And
Mhm.
it's a shame they're just throwing you out there without any business acumen. So that was fortunate that you were going to the business side of things first.
Yes,
I'm
it's very
assuming that's helped you.
Yes, and I think I'm constantly looking at things from that perspective, even when I'm analyzing legal issues or kind of trying to understand the sensitivities of my clients, because they are all, in the end, they're making either emotional or business decisions for themselves. So having that perspective is really helpful, and I think unique. And obviously, building a practice really does require, it's 10% law and 90% business at that point. So it was helpful. But there's a lot of learning on your own, and the whole entrepreneurial journey, whether you go to business school or not, is still its own monster.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I know we had a conversation a little bit earlier about working with investors,
Yes.
and you mentioned the complexity that investors bring to the table in the real estate transactions. And I was thinking in the back of my head, well, that's really a nice way of saying that investors are a real pain in the ass. they always just make it more complicated.
Our transactions are always weird, and they're fast, and they're there's a lot of the chain of title is usually really funky.
Yes.
And there's always issues going on, right?
Right.
So you really need someone like yourself that gets that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. There's a lot of sensitivities, and even beyond that, just like the structure of the deals. Every deal has its own structure to it, and there's really no cookie cutter approach to how you navigate like an assignment contract, or a situation where you can't assign but you are trying to, right? And of course every transaction has different people, and with those different people involved, that can raise different sensitivities and complexities. So having a law firm that's set up to have the time to massage those issues out for you is really important, and also not to treat it like a regular standard residential transaction, because it's not. It's so different from that. And luckily in New Jersey, most people are used to using attorneys for real estate transactions. So I have less of a uphill battle convincing people that it's worth it to work with me. But I know there's a lot of states that don't use lawyers for transactions. And so, I'm always fascinated that even happens, that it's kind of tech companies. But I think that there's like a really, really big opportunity to take non-commercial transactions, like the investor who is buying maybe a house that they're going to knock down and rebuild, and look at it like it's a very, very important business transaction, just like someone would with a warehouse or, a large condominium. They need the same attention. So I try to, deliver that service to my clients.
That's a lot like we do business the same way. As a lender, we're a balance sheet lender. We have to look at every single transaction as it stands on its own. There is no one way of doing things, and we have to look at things globally, right? And that becomes very labor intensive on each transaction. The benefit, if you're looking at lenders from that standpoint, a conventional lender, you have basically a loan in a box, and it's a lot less expensive for them to do the loans because they're all the same,
right?
Versus doing commercial transactions where there's going to be different complexities because each property is unique. Each borrower is unique. but you're able to overcome that with your technology. I see. Talk to me about your Track with Ease software that you have that
Yeah.
allows the participants to get in there and actually track what's going on.
Yeah, so Track with Ease is really wonderful, and I attribute it to a large part of my growth. Track with Ease was created by individuals who had real estate attorneys in mind. So the way that it's built, and it's constantly being updated because it is a pretty young software, which is actually a really great thing because you can call them and you can comment and they'll tweak the software as you need it. But what it is essentially is it's a portal, and there's a lot of automation set up within it so that the predictable parts of a transaction are there for you and set up so that you can create the I guess the track, so to speak, is what it's called. When you have a file, it's a track within Track with Ease. You can set it up to have automatic emails sent out about things that you know you need on a transaction. So it's one of those things like you do the work once, then you don't have to do it again. Whereas without that software, you have to have, some notepad somewhere where you have your list of things that you need to do, the due dates that they're due by, and you have to constantly follow up with people and remember to do that. So the software takes that whole, section of your brain power and does it for you, which is really, really amazing for an attorney, because a lot of times when you're worried about things like deadlines and due dates for customary things that are due on all transactions, it can still put you in a state of stress, right? And there could still be like a fire that needs to be put out. So Track with Ease helps to remove your headspace from needing to worry about those predictable fires and manages them so they don't ever light on fire. And it frees up your space to be able to give your clients the time and attention on the sensitive issues, where you're not spending all your energy worrying about deadlines and due dates and, again, common items that are needed on every transaction. Like, did my client do his oil tank sweep, for an example? Did the seller send me the payoff for their mortgage? Have I connected with the hard money lender with title, right? Like, all these things, they're common. So Track with Ease will do that for you, and it's awesome.
Well, the other thing I see where it's saving time is that typically your real estate professional is going to be part of that transaction, and they're going to be calling you on a regular basis going, is it going to close on time? Is it going to close on time?
And then the buyer does the same thing. And then the seller does the same thing.
So if there's a portal where they can go in and track the progress, they know exactly what's needed and when and what you're waiting for. And that frees you up from having to answer, or somebody in your office answer those questions, and they can really focus in on the stuff they need to.
Yes, and they can automatically upload things, and then we'll get an email notification. Every Wednesday, every tool is as good as you use it, right? So every Wednesday, I have my staff send out automatic milestone emails, which have the laydown of what's been received, what's pending, and what's overdue. And of course, if we have something that's overdue, on our end, we just kind of email our clients privately and let them know, hey, this was due yesterday. Can you get this in? Because then we'll send it out to the other side. So you can really customize it so that you are protecting your clients, right? But also managing the flow and keeping everyone at bay, which for an investment transaction, I think that's like largely what we have to do.
Well said. Well said. Keeping everyone at bay. That's really what it is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. They say that there's no emotion involved in commercial transactions, but they're wrong. I mean, you are supposed to look at the numbers. If the numbers don't make sense, you're not buying it as an investor.
Right.
But the emotions aren't about the buying process. The emotions about the getting it closed process.
That's right.
Exactly. And I think that, yeah, the numbers, that's what you focus on when you're making your offer and getting it accepted and working out that initial negotiation. But once you're in and you're going through your due diligence, and if you need extensions on things, or, if let's say you have a client who's working with you and they have maybe multiple loans with you. So like when you're approving of this one transaction, you're also looking at all their other ones, right? And you might need more time to evaluate the loan itself, or you might be covering a couple properties that they're buying all at once. Those kinds of things can really impact the timeliness of their performance under the contract. And everybody gets very emotional when you need extensions and things like that. And a lot of times, even just the simple fact of investors who are new thinking that they can call hard money cash, right? Like, I think that's the biggest thing that I come up against is when they're making offers, they're saying they're buying something cash because they're getting a hard money loan. But then I have to sit them down and explain to them that your loan is not cash, right? It will be when it's wired, but it's if you're not going to buy this property with cash you have in your bank right now, we need to, do a dance with the sellers and let them know that you're getting a loan here. And I need to protect you in that way. So even just something as simple as that can become a very emotional, conversation.
And, the difference between private lending and, bank financing, there's a big difference, and they can close a whole lot quicker, but you can't go out and say I'm a cash buyer unless you're actually a cash buyer.
Exactly.
You need to have, as a real estate professional, whether you're a licensed real estate professional or an investor, you need to have enough integrity to
be truthful,
make sure you're truthful with everybody, because really, yes, you want to win, but it needs to be a win-win for everybody involved in the transaction. And if the first thing you do is lie to them and say you're paying cash when you're getting a loan,
I've made many phone calls myself directly to sellers for our buyers that said, well, I told them it'd be cash. And well, it's not cash. It's a loan, and you need to put that information on the contract. That's what it's there for. But I've gotten on the phone and talked to the sellers and explained to them, here's the difference between a regular loan and a hard money loan. These people have already been through. Yeah. Giving them that information makes all the difference in the world.
It does. It does, especially if you get to closing, right, and the loan isn't ready, but you had said that it was cash. The other side is going to say, well, that shouldn't be a reason that you're not closing, right? And there's not much I can do at that point. So just because we're attorneys doesn't mean we can, loop in terms to a contract that was signed already that, has been signed. Like, we can't just make up new terms late. So having, someone involved who knows how to structure the deal and having the right team. So, I always prefer that my clients introduce me to their lenders first so that I can talk to them and, make sure, like, did you know this property was on the table? Have you reviewed the contract yet? Do you, can you fit this in your pipeline? Getting all that conversation taken care of before you're 1 week away from closing is very important.
Yeah.
This is true.
What do you mean you don't have the title work back yet?
Right.
So let's talk about COVID.
And how.
So are you doing your stuff virtually? Are you doing most everything virtually? How's that working for you?
Yes. Most everything is virtual. It's working out fine. I think that the real estate industry is really fascinating and one of the most resilient industries that I have seen through the COVID time, at least here in the tri-state area. I think a lot of people did not want to take no for an answer, right? So a lot of people were nervous and they were scared, but people were still out in the market. That being said, my office was actually virtual from 5 years before COVID. So I didn't have to shift anything too much. However, I did used to go to closings in person. Now I attend through Zoom conference, and that has worked out actually really well. And it's enabled me to be more efficient with maybe handling like an issue that might be going on at the closing or during the walkthrough, or a last minute fire that has to be put out with relation to the closing, because I could be here on Zoom and kind of, talking to my staff and letting them know, hey, present at the same time. I'm also not spending all my time driving to the closings, which has made me much more capable of serving my clients. And I don't have to say no to anyone when they're asking if I can be available for a closing, really, because now I can have one closing every hour through Zoom conference without having to worry about travel time. So that's been really great. And otherwise, there's no need with real estate for you to have to be in person, at least from the lawyer side. But clients still need to be present to sign loan documents, wet signatures. So the title companies are supporting that capability at this point.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if it was an issue with e-signatures. Some states still are requiring wet signatures, but you can. Mm-hmm. You still have overnight packages that you get out there in advance. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how they do the notary part, though. I don't know if you have to also do that virtually, set up a Zoom with your notary, say, yeah, I'm seeing you signing it.
Can you do that virtually? I didn't think about that.
So in New Jersey, you can do that. I could, let's say you had documents you needed to sign. I could watch you sign them over the Zoom. You could send them to me, and then I could finish the notarization. I would require that you show me your IDs right up to the screen, and you can send me copies of those IDs. And then you would overnight the package to me to finish up the notarization. So there's original signatures on the documents, and then those would be sent for recording. So I have been doing that for sellers with deeds, for example. With regards to the loan documents, I think because for my investors, they're definitely a lot more, familiar with the documents that they're signing. So we would do that over the Zoom conference if needed. The title company can also do it if needed. But I found that not a lot of title companies are, strapping up with computers the way that some others are, which has been really interesting to see, which ones have installed computers so that their attorneys could attend through Zoom, and perhaps the notaries as well. It's the residential non-investor, non-hard money loans, the regular loans that are going out that the clients are still kind of going to the table in person and signing those.
Well, I know.
Yeah.
I've been in mortgage for 30 years, and Wendy's been doing it close to that. Mm-hmm. I am the older one, just in case you were wondering.
Yeah.
The thing that I really heart-wrenching from back in the day is sitting in the attorney's office at a closing. The person moving in has got their moving truck in the parking lot, and then the money wasn't wired, and it's on a Friday, and now they're saying, well, I'm sorry, can't do it at dry closing. We'll have to do this on Monday.
Yeah, that still happens.
You don't have to worry about that with an investor loan. That's for sure.
Right.
Usually.
Yeah.
So
I can get documents that are good through, 10 to 15 days. So like we could sign them when they're ready, but they get to us early, which is really nice with hard money loans. So we try to get them early, and then we schedule the closing so that we know, these docs are ready to go, and then the wire will be sent, and we can take care of that nice and easy.
So I know you're licensed in New Jersey and Massachusetts. Are you? Yes. Have you thought about a Pennsylvania license as well, or no?
I've more so thought about the uniform bar exam. So I would want to take that so that I could get admitted into all the states that have approved the uniform bar exam. I don't have the list memorized of which ones have signed on to it, but I know more and more are coming through like every year. And I haven't checked since COVID what has changed. Maybe a lot more states have been willing to do it now that the whole work remotely thing is becoming more popular now.
Sure.
But I would definitely, love to add the licenses. It's just a pretty big endeavor to decide to take another bar exam. So,
Oh, I bet.
It is. And I would imagine that, every state is different.
Mm-hmm.
There's something a little bit different in every state, the way that they do things.
Yes.
And just remembering all the statutes and all the things that you'd have to put that you'd have to be familiar with, that it can't be easy.
Yeah. And it's kind of just the way of taking the test, right? Getting back into that mode. There's a special kind of mindset that you have to be in to answer the questions versus your knowledge of the law. And that takes a good, you need to have your mind in that for at least a good 4 hours every day, like practicing the tests and going through the motions. But I did recently hire a new attorney at my firm, which has been a huge help with the growth that we've seen. And, maybe one more of those, I could take some time to take another bar exam and get the license, which would be awesome. And another, I guess, dream of mine outside of just the law practice is to help other attorneys with their law practices and to be able to speak to attorneys from other states who do practice real estate law and to teach them, how to build out their practices so that they can deliver this high level of customer service and really construct their law firms to be very successful, but also very high touch so that clients are very happy, is a second business that I'm working on and consulting at this time. So
that's awesome.
Well, we have a good friend who does that in the dental business.
Yeah.
We have another good friend that does the same thing in the chiropractic business as well.
And the vet.
So we would like
veterinarian.
I'm sorry?
Veterinarian too.
Yeah.
Phil does too.
So we would like to put you in contact with those folks just to get an idea of how they're doing it and how you may want to structure
sure.
something like that.
That would be awesome. Thank you.
One of the things I noticed about your profile is how to relieve one's stress. So you're also a yoga instructor too, right?
Yes. Yogi and yoga instructor. And
that's awesome.
It's definitely one thing when I was in law school that I realized was the only thing that helped me with my stress was meditation. So when I graduated law school, I decided that no matter what happens in my career, I will always have the yoga license as well as something that I could either, do for people, but also just to have the full immersion of the training so that I could do it for myself. And for the last, 14 years, I've practiced yoga every day. And I have like a morning routine that I do that I find that is very, very supportive for my ability to handle the fires, right? And the fast pace of a real estate world. And, I would recommend it for everybody. Everybody has their own things that help them with meditation, but there's still nothing like being able to sit with yourself, right? Versus running.
And empty your mind. Yeah.
Yeah. There's still like just this higher level of it that is incredibly powerful and helpful for dealing with stress management.
Well, it's very important to carve out time and you need to set a schedule for that time and make it a routine. You can't just say I'm going to do it and then, I can't right now. I got this fire I have to put out, because then you'll never get it done. Mm-hmm. And we all do the same thing. I have a gym routine. I go there no matter what's happening. I'm going to the gym. It's not meditation, but it does relieve stress.
It does. It does.
And I do some yoga stretches, but I'm not nearly as flexible as I'd like to be.
Well, the fascinating thing about yoga is that there's many different ways to practice it, right? And doing poses is one way. But there's also different styles. And so you don't have to worry about the flexibility part. But even just sitting and, listening to the sounds around you, it can be a form of meditation. And starting somewhere, right? And like you said, making sure you go all the time and just being consistent with your routine is that, even that, just honoring that is something that sets you off in like a positive space, right? Because if you didn't go, then you'd start to feel guilty, right? And then that even, sets you in a space of maybe feeling a little stressed. Then you miss an email or miss a phone call, and then that adds to it, right? It's
Sure.
micro steps towards being really stressed out versus not. So
I love too the way you said, sitting by yourself and just listening to the sounds around you. In today's world, with your cell phone and the computer and all the technology that's going on around us, I would say that, we have a whole generation that has no idea what that's like.
Yeah.
Just to sit and listen, to take in what's going on around you.
Yeah. Even email, right, can be addictive, and just making sure that you're answering everything instantaneously. And when you're not on there, are you scrolling somewhere else, right? There's just constant distraction out there. And I think real estate is very, heavily, the work you do is heavily in email. I don't know if you guys experience that yourselves, but for me, my office is my email. And so if I'm away from my desk for an hour, I know I have to come back and check it and see what's happened while I've not looked at my email. And at the same time, if I need to work on something, if I've got my email open next to me, there's no way that I'm going to be able to focus on that document that I'm drafting. So I turn everything off. I put my phone away. I close out of my email tabs, and I just sit in that Word document and get that work done. And there's no way around it. Like the idea of multitasking is a myth. You can't multitask. It just, you can't. Really, our brains are not constructed to be able to do it. And if you're trying to do it, you're going to do everything half as good, right? So it's more productive, and the success that you feel from when you devote yourself 100% to whatever it is you're working on can lead you to actually like having more happiness at work and feeling better about what you're producing and how you're communicating. Like if we were here right now talking to each other, it feels like we're immersed in our conversation, right? But if our minds were thinking about other things and worrying about other stuff, you can feel it and you can sense it. And at the end of the interview, we'd be like, that went kind of well. It was all right.
You're so right. You know what I love too about your email? When you send you an email, you have an automated email that says, your email is comfortably sitting in my inbox. I have not read it yet, but I will, and then you go to explain. And I love that because it's an acknowledgement that, hey, I got it, but I'll get, as soon as I can get to it, I'll let you know. I think that's good. I like that.
Yeah, mine says that mine is nervously twitching, waiting for you to open it.
We've probably had a couple responses, when I have a file that I really don't have an update yet, but the other side's looking for it. And if they send an email and they get that and maybe they're frustrated, they'll be like, I know it's there comfortably, but it's not comfortable, we'll get some jabs.
Arguing with your email response.
I save them for myself to kind of look back at and get some comic relief. But at the same time, it is important to acknowledge that you've received people's emails. The last thing I want my clients to feel is like, did I get it right? And people feel if that response comes that at least it was received by Gmail or the whatever email service is being used. And I just found managing expectations is a really important business decision for someone who owns a business. And and it should be a high priority to manage not just your clients' expectations, but the people you work with, and explain to them, like, if you're not going to be free, for half a day, you can put that into your auto reply so that people know. I found that people respect when you give them information in advance versus, if you didn't say anything and then you have some angry messages like, I sent you this email, why didn't you get back to me? And you can't expect people to know, that you're not available. You can't expect that. And also every person who's working with you, you are probably one of maybe in the investor world, right? Like maybe one of 5 to 10 deals. Whereas as the attorney, it's like they are one of 100 or 200, right? So just remembering that your clients, like, you are their world, right? When they're not going to, and it's not appropriate to say to them, well, you're one of 200, right? That attitude. But just remembering that, and like remembering that that's the perspective that they're coming from, can relax you just by yourself before you reply to them. Like, and it hopefully will cure the agitation. And I think that that's like a huge thing that I bring to my clients is like, I never get agitated with them because I am constantly just reminding myself, like, okay, where are they coming from? And why might they be acting in this certain way? And it's not personal, right? It's usually not. Of course, there might be a circumstance that becomes that, but that can be dealt with in a much different way. Most of the time it's not. And I think just remembering that and internalizing that is really, really important. And having your own business and running your own practice, you learn a lot about yourself as a person, and it's such like a awesome opportunity. And I explain this to my investors too. Like, you have your own business right now, right? Investors are trying to build businesses, own properties, fix and hold, or fix and sell, and make a name for themselves. And it's a personal journey that you can go through a lot of growth while you're on that path. And I always let my clients know, like, that I'm honored, to be part of that and to walk them through that journey. So I'm always excited to have new investors because I can kind of like watch them grow and set them up, right from the beginning, which is really, an awesome opportunity in my eyes.
That's awesome. And what a pleasure it is to hear a professional talk that way. That's awesome.
Well, I mean, it doesn't make sense not to be in the relationship business. You have to get relationships with your clients because as business people, we know it's a lot less expensive to deal with existing clients than it is to constantly have to go get new ones.
That's
so if you're ticking people off, you're going to spend a lot more money on marketing, aren't you?
Yep. It's important too, I think, for all of us to understand that there are certain people that we just never will get along with. And you need to realize that and cut them off. I mean, send them on to somebody else that would do much better at handling that personality.
Yeah, and I think that a very adult conversation can be had with that person if it's needed to mutually come to that agreement and that recognition. So I think that it can be handled very professionally if that's the case that needs to come about.
Well said. Well said.
Absolutely. Ashley, thank you so much for being our guest today and taking time out of your day. Scott, do you have Ashley's website available there? There we go. So is that a good place for people to get a hold of you?
Yeah, absolutely. They can go there. They'll get my contact information. My number is on there. My email's there. Email is best. So they can send an email directly to my office, and if it's questions, if it's comments, anything, just feel free to send an email. And, like I said, I live in there. It's my office, so I'll get back to you.
Awesome. Have you heard of investher.com before?
I I think so, but I might be mixing it up with something else that I've seen. So
I'm gonna introduce you to the people that started that. Liz Faircloth is one of them, and they actually started in your area, but I think it'd be a great connection for you. They'd love to have you in their resources, and I think it'd be. I'm sure they'd love to interview you too, and talk about what you're doing and how you're doing, because I think. I just love the approach that you have toward people, seeing them as people and not just customers. And I think that that's huge. And I always love to see females rule.
All right, and men rule.
Yeah, men rule. That's right.
Especially in the real estate industry, I have a lot of like female investors that will reach out to me, and we kind of start igniting this discussion, and then a lot of them kind of taper off, and I don't hear from them, and I think it's like they don't really jump in, right? And it's not all the time, but I've found that I have more drop off, right, with the female investors that kind of like come into my world, and the ones that stay, really are so dynamic, and it's such a incredible journey to watch, like a female investor jump into that hard hat life, right?
Right.
So I'd love to be connected with them. That'd be awesome.
That's awesome. We'll do that offline. That's great.
All right, excellent. So I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Remember, Carolina Capital Management. We are a lender. CarolinaHardMoney.com if you're interested in borrowing money for fix and flips. Again, all this stuff is investor only, right?
Yes.
We don't do anything but legal entities.
That's right. No people.
If you're looking for passive returns, then click on our investor tab. If you're borrowing, click on the borrower tab. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe to our show. It was a pleasure having you on, Ashley. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Folks, same time next week. See you later.